Whole lot of people need to hear this. It's not names on the hit list. Mouth still say what he wants to. Still back like a bitch. I should run a whole blog at this rate.
Okay. I ain't gonna even give y'all too much of an intro because this topic has been sitting on my spirit for a couple days. I had a whole ass debate / conversation about it last night. So I just, I'm trying to keep up with giving y'all feedback on the current events that go on throughout the week. But last week was just so crazy that I didn't really have time to sit and gather my thoughts about this. So before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and just show you all the comments that have led up to all of the discussion as far as Chris Brown, colorism, and what's been in the media. So before I show y'all, I'm just going to give you the rundown. First, okay, his album came out. Women saw that he had this lyric that talked about only fucking black bitches with the nice hair. And then people was going off about it, blah, 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 blah. On one of the Shade Room posts that was acknowledging the fact that this is a lyric and that people are going off about it, a rapper from Atlanta, she's from New Orleans, she lives in Atlanta, by the name of Tokyo, she commented on it, and then people kind of really focused on her comment, because I've seen people online well, where did the dark skin shit come from? This is where it came from. So it's not that Chris Brown said anything specifically about dark skinned women. The dark skinned women thing came in when people started to pay so much attention to this comment that Tokyo made. So in response to what Tokyo said, Chris Brown starts to troll, and then she readdresses pretty much what she knows to be an experience of somebody that's close to her. As well as I'm also going to show the comments that Chris Brown made following the backlash that he got from the lyrics. So I'm going to let y'all look through all of that so everybody can be nice and caught up before I get started.
Challenge. For all the angry uglies that's mad at what I said, post a picture of what you look like. Please. Okay. Challenge. For all the angry uglies that's mad at what I said, post a picture of what you look like. Please.
For pause ahead, Brown. Bitch, stop playing with me. Okay, all that talking about can you take me out and all that, bitch, that shit not funny. Second of all, bitch, I'm not even your type, bitch. You into things of, lighter complexion. Coke, heroin, Molly, acid, embalming fluid, cigarettes. I'm just saying, Puerto Rican women, white women, Asian women, and that's all fine because that's your preference and we are entitled to a preference. Bitch, all I'm doing is calling it like I see it. When we was in the club in Miami and when we was in the club in LA, bitch, in your section, your rules was no darkies. You wouldn't let my homegirl in LA, but you let all her friends in. And in Miami, you wouldn't let my other homegirl in, but you let all her friends in. But y'all was talking about no dark-skinned women. All I'm saying is like a gangster, how you feel, stand on that shit. Because me, however I feel about anything, I'ma stand on the 10 toes. Bitch, don't come changing your opinion and how you feel about shit because everybody bashing you. And furthermore, I told my homegirl not to even be in your section because, bitch, she don't even do cocoa. And then, for you to even come on the internet playing with me today, furthermore, let me know that, bitch, you must be on them drugs bad. Because, bitch, I don't even play with niggas like you. Bitch, I make a real nigga bat the fuck out you. Bitch, you'll really be around LA dancing, bitch.
So, I'm going to start by saying that I was not personally offended by the lyric. I think that Chris was probably very strategic in making sure he said nice hair versus good hair, because even though they sound very similar, the phrase good hair has a certain connotation to it in the African American community, and it's had that over time. And while people are working to take away that negative connotation or the connotation associated with what having good hair is, I think people saw nice hair and automatically thought, in their mind went to good hair. So one other disclaimer that I want to make before starting this video is I'm not here to defend things one way or another. I've always wanted to have a conversation about certain aspects of colorism, and I mentioned that in a couple of videos ago, that this was a conversation for another time. Well, here is that time. I'm going to use the conversation that is occurring around Chris Brown's lyric to give me the opportunity to discuss this. But as far as, like, because I have to keep telling people this when I had this discussion, I'm not offended by what Chris said. And that's just because, like, in the grand scheme of things, we already know what Chris's type is. We know he likes racially ambiguous women. I didn't see that, like, the black bitches, like, whenever somebody says black bitches, that part rubbed me the wrong way versus, like, the nice hair piece. Like, I just think black bitches is I don't know, it don't sit right with my spirit when people say that. So that's really what I didn't care for about it. But the whole, like, thing in itself, I think people saw it and they wanted to know what his definition of nice hair was. Because historically, good hair, not nice hair, good hair has referred to what my friend calls socially acceptable hair, meaning like a looser curl. Because I've said that to her, like, you know, I was going natural and I felt like I knew I was like, I'm not gonna have no wash and go type hair, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't gonna have no good hair. And she was like, no, it's not good hair, it's socially acceptable hair. And this is from her having, you know, these beautiful curls that I like, which is, again, of a looser curl and all this other things. So that's what we associate good hair historically to have been, you know what I mean? Chris Rock made a whole documentary about the term in African American women's hair and all of that. So I think that was like the first thing that people saw, is they associated the two, and then they wanted to know, well, for you, Chris Brown, what do you believe is nice hair? Because when I hear nice hair, I understand that nice hair can be polished hair. It can be well taken care of hair. I think what made the situation worse was how Chris Brown responded. Now, Chris Brown is Chris Brown. Like, if motherfuckers didn't cancel him after hitting Rihanna, I don't understand, you know. I understand the uproar because I can connect everything. But as far as, like, you want to cancel him for this, but you didn't want to cancel him for abusing a black woman. Like, that's my thing. It's like, if you gonna stand for it, let's stand for it all. And let's just not keep looking for things to, like, nitpick with. But what I had a bigger issue with was how he responded. Instead of just saying, you know, for me, nice hair means polished. Nice hair means well put together. Nice hair means you're getting it done, not a certain type of grade of hair. And instead, he used it as an opportunity to call out uglies. A lot of women who have probably supported him. I think that was not the appropriate way to go about it. I think had he come from a more compassionate standpoint, as far as just explaining himself, not necessarily himself, but explaining what his definition of nice hair is, because that can look different and be subjective to a lot of people. So, but it's Chris Brown. Chris Brown apparently don't have no PR person no more. We already know Chris Brown has a habit of just not giving a fuck, period. So I'm not shocked at how he replied. I just think that would have done better for the whole situation. Because now, even, I want to say a couple of hours ago, he made another post saying, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, blah, blah, blah. Like, because now it's dragged out instead of just saying what you think nice hair is and then leaving it at that. because I'm gonna switch gears. So that's my opinion on like the actual lyric itself. I didn't feel no different about it the same way like when Kodak Black came out and was like, I don't like dark skinned bitches. I only like light skinned bitches. And like, think about who it's coming from. It's fucking Kodak Black. Like, do we really give a fuck what Kodak Black thinks? Not really. At least I don't. Like, okay. And I know that for him and that comment, that is actually rooted in a lot of self-hate. And a lot of men who make comments like that, it's rooted in self-hate, and they don't even realize it. And it's more so an ignorance thing to me. So I'm not gonna give no energy to somebody who clearly just doesn't know better and who don't like themselves, who don't love themselves. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about the lyric. Again, we know what Chris Brown like. We've seen his type. He likes racially ambiguous women. So the whole, I didn't necessarily I didn't see that and was like, oh, he's attacking like women of a certain skin complexion or a certain caliber. Like, again, that all came from Tokyo's comment, pretty much saying that he apparently doesn't allow dark-skinned women in his sections. And before I move on, just to touch on that, not with him specifically, but I have been told by multiple women, like, and I can't say that, I'm not going to sit here and say that multiple women are lying about their experience with this, especially women who go to LA in certain clubs in Atlanta and are around certain artists. I've heard that that's a thing. I'm not even going to front about that. And you can say that it's hearsay or it's an assumption. I'm not going to sit here and say that all of these women are lying about having this experience. All of these women are saying that in certain clubs in LA, and certain rappers have guidelines about what color of women they want around them. So that's all I'm gonna say about that piece. However, I want to address some of the comments and conversation that's occurred around this topic. So for a while, I'm not talking about like this is even before the Chris Brown thing started. For a very long time, people have been trying to disguise and defend colorism as a preference. And I think it's a bigger issue than people like really. I think people are just, they don't realize that they're doing it a lot of the time, and they don't understand like how it is not a preference. So one of the comments that I keep seeing a lot of men make is, well, women get to say that they want a man of a certain height, or they want a man to make a certain amount of money. And nobody, and people are just supposed to be okay with that. But the moment, somebody says that they like light-skinned women, it's an issue. And what I really need y'all to understand is the difference between height and what you make for a living is not rooted in systemic oppression and prejudice. And I'm not talking just about in the African American community. Nationally, globally, colorism is very prevalent. Like, I think black people, we just talk about it within us, but what you don't realize, in the Indian culture, the lighter you are, the prettier or the more handsome or the more affluent you're perceived to be. In Asian cultures, baby, there ain't no getting dark over there. I went to Cape Town, South Africa to study abroad, and there were 2 Asian girls on our trip. When I tell you, they wore long sleeve shirts and had umbrellas and hats on the whole time, because being dark in their culture is not perceived as being beautiful. It's ugly. So we can go on. Historically, white people are the only people who really made it a thing to try to be darker. So I think what I don't like is, again, the conversation that's occurred behind this is that people are acting ignorant about the fact that colorism is a real thing. The more lighter you are, the better you have been perceived to be. Light has been associated, again, with class and beauty, while dark has been associated with dirty, aggressive. There are certain connotations historically, globally, nationally, that light and dark have had. So that's what I really want to point out is colorism is a different ball game than somebody having a height preference. Because if you tell me I only date light-skinned women or I only date light-skinned men, I'm going to ask you why. Not that, like, because I'm all for going where you're celebrated, baby. So, again, it's not, I'm just curious as to what is your reasoning behind it. Because, like I said in my last video, when it comes to, like, dating and things like that, some people are light-skin struck. I've heard many and seen many comments about people not wanting to have children that are dark-skinned because they understand the societal pressures or prejudices that they may be up against. Like, literally, we've told young black kids, you know, that they outside and they getting too dark. So to act like these things don't exist, I think is ignorant. You know what I mean? If we're going to talk about it, let's just talk about it. Let's just be honest about it. We have been conditioned to believe that light skin is supposed to be better. And we may not believe that now, but I'm just saying over time we've been conditioned to believe that. I'm not absolved of that at all. People will tell you I have a history with dating light-skinned men. Now, is that to say that I would never date a dark-skinned man? Absolutely not. Or a caramel-skinned man. And I think that's what makes the difference. That's what makes it different from having a preference or maybe a history or a track record of dating people that kind of look the same or having a type. And it's no different, I'll compare it to this, it's no different than a black man dating a white woman and saying, I date white women because black women are XYZ. That's what makes it a problem. It's when you try to degrade or be condescending to a different skin complexion or a different race because of your preference. People can have preferences, but if you see, I've never met somebody who was very adamant on saying, I only date light-skinned women, I never date a dark-skinned woman, and they didn't have some type of deeply rooted issues with their culture or their skin complexion. Now, people are quick to say, like, well, when the white people look at us, it's all the same. That is very well and true. And again, we know historically, and somebody tried to refute this, I don't know how true it is, which is like the whole house slave, field slave thing, lighter in the house, darker in the field. Somebody said that actually isn't true. I can't say that to be true or not, but I'm just saying I think that's where a lot of this, like, again, this hierarchy as far as the closer you are to looking white, the more affluent you're perceived to be, the more pretty you're perceived to be. So I just feel like if we're going to have a conversation about it, let's have a conversation about it. And I don't think it's any different. And I want y'all to just stop comparing. Oh, well, you can say you want a man that's over 6 feet, but it's wrong if a man say he only date light-skinned women. Yes, it is. Because over time in history, you've not been discriminated against because you weren't a certain height. But people have been discriminated against because they were too dark. So that's just one thing I really wanted to point out. Something else that I want to talk about is I don't like the whole, like, making it seem like dark-skinned people, you know, I don't like the comparing of the struggles, like who had it worse, light skins because they weren't accepted as being black, or dark skins because they weren't as accepted as being, you know, aesthetically pleasing and things like that. And I think that is unproductive. It's an unproductive conversation to say. I can express what my experience was as a dark-skinned woman, and I'm not going to invalidate or discredit somebody who has had struggles because they were light-skinned. Like, I want us to get out of, like, trying to see whose struggle was harder. I do want to say that I think that there is such a thing as light-skinned privilege. I'm serious about that. I think it is. But I'm not going to say that light-skinned people never had struggles. And if you fall in the middle, like one girl that was in our discussion yesterday, she was like, well, I didn't know about a light and a dark because you're caramel skin, baby. So this really ain't, I'm not going to say this ain't her conversation, but I'm just saying as far as, like, knowing what it's like on either end, you don't, because you fall right in the middle. You know what I mean? And like I said before, people have tried to say, you're not dark-skinned, come on, don't do that. Like, because I'm darker than most. Like, I come from 2 chocolate parents. My brother is chocolate. You know what I mean? So, like, don't try to discredit what I know myself to be or what I choose to claim. Because some people, I think, what I think is more interesting is how people typically like to see themselves, or how other people see them, or what they try to attach themselves to as far as, like, appearance wise. So I'll never forget, it was this guy I follow on Instagram, and he's lighter skinned, has hazel eyes, and he has dark brown hair. For a while, when we were still on Snapchat, he made his little snap emoji have like sandy brown reddish hair. And I used to look at him like, what's wrong with you, with your emoji looking like you and having dark hair, dark brown hair? So I felt like that was rooted in something. And he eventually dyed his hair sandy brown. And that's not to say that you can't want to change up your looks, but I just felt like, do you like that because you feel like it makes you look more exotic, more racially ambiguous? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just look at things like that, and I just want everybody to love themselves for like who they are and not always feel like they want to look more non-black. Because that's what I think sometimes it comes down to, is people want to perceive themselves to be racially ambiguous. It's no different than when somebody tries to like prove what they're mixed with. You know what I mean? I think when I was younger, that was the big thing. Oh, I'm half Indian because God forbid you're 100% African American. I know nobody is. Like, we all got a little something, but like, God forbid that. So I actually appreciate it when lighter skinned people, or like, you know, women who have really long, beautiful hair, and that people ask them like, what do you mix with? And they say, I'm black. I'm black. Because I think it helps to contribute to the narrative that you can be black and have these things or not fit a certain mold. Like, again, we all have different characteristics and are built of different things. And I think it's important that we just continue to show that, like, you can be black and you can have long hair. You can be black and have different color eyes. Like, and so yeah, I'll leave that there. The next thing that I want to touch on is I want us to get out of the habit, because I think what's making it hard for a lot of men to understand what women are upset about, or at least, like, again, to understand why is it so bad that somebody has a preference, is because especially light-skinned men, because there's now been, like, I want to say over the last few years, a connotation with being a light-skinned man. Like, they are apparent, like, people will try to push this thing that they are perceived to be, like, less masculine. And if you are a light-skinned man, you're going to take some offense to that. And even this whole idea of, like, acting light-skinned. And somebody asked me, like, the other day, like, have you ever said that? And I'm not going to lie, I've said it as a joke, because of what we've attached as far as like the stereotype to that. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that that's right, and it's something I'm going to be more conscious of, and I want everybody to be more conscious of that. So instead of saying, oh, they're acting light skin, or, you know, because you don't really hear they acting dark skin, you hear they acting light skin. And I want to challenge people to, instead of using that term, to describe the characteristic that you are seeing. So they're acting feminine. They are acting non-assertive or more passive. They aren't acting as aggressive as I need them to be. Whatever the actual characteristic is, that's what I want people to get in the habit of naming. Because what we've done is we've attached certain characteristics to certain skin tones. So that's why we can say acting light skin, or again, dark skinned men have this ability to be perceived to be more masculine and more, you know, assertive and more aggressive and intimidating. And I think that adds to the problem. So I want us to get in the habit of just using the language to describe the characteristics versus just being like, oh, they acting light skinned. It's no different than like they this idea that light-skinned women don't answer their phones. You know what I mean? Like, little shit like that, we don't even realize it's like adding to the problem of like who's perceived as what, and why we're attaching certain characteristics to certain people of complexion. So yeah, I don't necessarily think it's anything wrong with like having a preference, but I think to vocalize that preference as far as to discredit, or I think the proper word would be to have prejudice against other people, especially when it comes to like dating and who you like. Something that I started to do is, if I see a man who's lighter skinned and I think that he's attractive, I close my eyes and I envision that man being caramel skinned or dark skinned. If I still in my head find myself attracted to him, that means I'm attracted to his aesthetics, the shape of his face, his mouth, his nose, his eyes, the way he looks. I'm not attracted to his skin color. And I think that that's what I challenge people to do, because like I said before, like, light-skinned women will be praised even if they aren't as aesthetically pleasing, you know what I mean? And let's not act like we don't know what that is, or socially acceptably pretty. Whereas I feel like dark-skinned women are pushed up against like a higher expectation. Like, I feel like when people really started praising dark-skinned women over the last few years, it really started with this whole like being oiled up and like half naked and ooh, chocolate, you know what I mean? It was like that type of association versus just seeing somebody and thinking like, again, I'm attracted to their features versus like their skin complexion. So like I said, I think that's what helps to break down, am I really attracted to this person's aesthetics, or am I attracted to the fact that they have a certain skin complexion? And I think it's all wrong, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard women say, you know, I only want to date dark skinned men, and I'd be curious to know, like, what is it about dark skinned men that you're attracted to? Is it the melanated of the skin? Because I think the reason why that's perceived differently is because for so long it was talked down upon. So people hear it and they don't feel the same way because dark skin has not been praised for nearly as long or nearly in the same capacity as being light skinned. So I think that's it. I hope I articulated myself the way that I wanted to. Again, what Chris Brown like is what Chris Brown like. Like we knew this. We know what type of women that he likes or that he's attracted to. I just think that I want people to just stop acting like they don't know what the fuck these women are getting at. Like, you know what we're getting at. And does that make it right that they're taking this and running with it? No. I'm just saying it. I think this sparked a bigger conversation that people like to have, which is that people like to use preference as a reason to discriminate against people of certain complexions. And I don't think that part, I don't think it's right to say I only date this or I only date that. Like, yes, that can be your preference, but don't discredit other people, and at least have the self-awareness to know why. Regardless if you explain that to anybody else, but for yourself, you know what I mean? Where is that coming from within you? All right? So enjoy the rest of y'all day.